Looks like we got that going. Alright, guys. First off, Happy New Year to everybody. Since I didn't get to stream last week. So hope everybody had a nice New Year. So, what I'm going to be playing around with tonight is we cleared out this area. And then I punched some holes in here. And the reason being, as we keep playing around with these initial concepts, which again, we might be doing a completely new pass on everything, or we might be taking pieces once the lore's kind of really settled in on. But Goblin had kind of come up with this idea, because we've talked about layering civilizations, older civilizations, underneath and built upon by, you know, the more modern Night Harbor. So, you know, there's some of these ancient ruins. And then in this area, which is kind of in this spot, you've got them built on... You've got these more modern buildings built straight on top of these, like, rooftops. Of course, I kind of have them buried in sand still. So that might change a little bit. But anyways, what I want to play around with is how this will work and how this would look. And, you know, so you've got these planks that are covering these gaps, which obviously right now the gaps are just kind of open and the streets aren't even filled out and they're just kind of roughed in cubes at this moment. But down beneath, you've got some sand filling in some of these old structures. You've got some like balconies and stuff that is kind of exposed. So it could be a really cool like encounter space. So that's kind of what I'm going to be playing around with today, for the most part. So you can see I kind of punched holes in here for now. I might adjust these edges or something at some point. And I kind of just plopped in a couple of buildings. And what I'm thinking of is, again, kind of like maybe this could potentially be an encounter space, because we do want to hide encounter spaces in, excuse me, you know, within the cities themselves. So this would be kind of a cool one. You can't, you know, you could look down and maybe see something's going on down there. And then how do you get down there? So this weekend, I already kind of started this big elaborate how do you get here moment, which you guys might have initially saw if you were watching Sean's stream before, where I made this a secret door that you can go down into this underground area. Initially, I didn't have a hole punched in the ground here, so it was all crammed inside this small area. And what I was just trying to do is, like, how much can I get away with? How big of space, an encounter space, could I make it feel while it was really small? I have since punched a hole in there, and, well, you can see it's getting fairly elaborate at this point. But it's just kind of a small, like, encounter space dungeon type area, kind of tucked in to the areas we have down here. And I've been playing around with just a couple different looks. Maybe, hold on a second. I did some moving of stuff around, so I keep adjusting heights and stuff like that. So I've done stuff with a little bit more rounded off, which is not quite classic feeling. Down here we've done, you know, very boxy, which is very, you know, classic feeling in terms of how they did caves and passageways and stuff like that. So just kind of playing around with a couple different ways, and then just kind of, you know, some fun pathing and exploration type stuff. But eventually you'll have to get to this area through this cave network. So what I'm thinking about playing around with today is taking this cave, and I needed to decide. I was originally, I moved this stuff around because I was running out of room, and I had it kind of the first row right here. But I want this to kind of go into the broken bottom portion, like basement level, first floor level, I guess, of one of these houses that's going to be buried in sand. And unlike this one, whose doorway is full of sand, the one that you'd come up through would not be as full of sand. So I'm going to use sand as kind of, ramps to kind of push you up and down and block off some areas that maybe you can see through doorways, like you could see through here. And maybe like this particular type of structure, you can't get in through here, but maybe there's a broken wall or something like that over here that we can get into. So kind of just playing around with that idea. But I do want to, and this plane right here is kind of what I'm going to use for sand. I've just been using it to kind of block light from spilling in down here. Since there were no normals, so it's just been kind of chilling there as a light blocking volume, I guess, for hey Zukin, for the time being. So I need to figure out which building I want to run it to. Before I moved everything around, it was originally going to be this building, but it was over here. I don't know if I want to make this tunnel just a little bit longer, and then it kind of meets up and then goes. Actually, maybe I'll do it that way. Maybe I'll run it a little bit further down this way, and then I'll put in another building. Oops. I forgot what program I was in there for a second. Let's give ourselves another building over here. And these aren't actually going to be the buildings anyways. I'm going to do the walls and stuff individually. But I just want to be able to kind of eyeball this as I'm moving towards it. And then I can just snap some of these down into walls. So, actually, before we go in there, why don't let's save, and I'll hop in, and I'll show off the zone work that I've been doing. And actually, now that I think about it, I probably should have... actually, you know what? I'll just bring in... I won't bring in Paytas. I'll go in another character. So you get the full reveal. Do any of these have... I don't think any of these have boots of speed. The shaman might. It does not. Oops. And there we go. So I'll run over here. How you doing, Zukin? So again, these are the, for anybody who has not been here or watched one of the VODs, this is the marketplace that I remodeled and retextured, and built it off of the original structures that were there, and then just kind of remodeled them, and updated them a little bit to kind of fit some of the reference we were looking at. These are some buildings over here that are really based off of this particular portion of this. I am going to kind of play around more with this. Oops, I didn't mean to close that. But now that I've got this area over here, I can start playing around with buildings. I'll probably remove this stone path or shrink it down a little bit. But we're just kind of using this right now as an area to kind of proof out and play with how, how does this stuff work together. And make sure I'm not messing with anybody. Okay. Slash time 6, 7, 8M. Oops, helps if I put space there. There we go. So now you guys can see. So we've got doors and stuff in here. Actually, before I go down there, for anybody who's new, so I turned this place into like a little tavern. I'm sorry, not a tavern. This is more of an inn. And then you go downstairs, and there's more inn rooms. Kind of a little tavern, not quite finished, but kind of gets the idea across in a smaller area. There's also more human-sized spaces, more gnome-size. I've kind of got the very beginning of ogre size, but it's been very neglected at this point. So I need to get around to doing that more. But let's take you through a journey. So, this crate looks a little suspicious. So we can open it up, and now we can drop down into down to here. And like I said, for anybody who's watched Sean's stream last week, I forget which day, he did kind of pop down in here real quick. So it's a small little area, potential places for spawns, and then there was this other area over here. I've extended out this area a little bit. I've also made, or I didn't make, somebody made a nice hole right here, so you can go into this area. And there was a couple people talking about like, ooh, I need some occultists or something like that down here. So I kind of ran with that aesthetic. Although this is really bright, I need to kind of play around with the lights. Kind of got like a sacrificial altar or something going on. And again, there's no exact lore behind any of these decisions. I'm just kind of playing around with stuff right now. So all this is completely subject to change. But yeah, so we got this, and I needed to actually make this deeper. I hadn't made the way out of this until yesterday, so I didn't throw my character down there to see if it was far enough. I was originally kind of thinking like the hole type of you can't go down unless you go the safe route. And there's also some geo right here that I'm hiding with this. That'll eventually get moved. So you kind of walk down, and then you got this flat area over here. You can hop down, and then there is this kind of little tucked away cave over here. Some just large, what could be encounter areas. There needs to be more. I need to model like some basic rock, like larger boulders that I can use to kind of help break up some of this stuff, because right now some of these rooms are very, very open, and they probably wouldn't be. But again, kind of playing around down here, like I mentioned before, this is kind of more of the classic, well, this part maybe not, but for the most part, it's very, very flat. And I was looking at, the hole, and actually I was looking at the hole a lot when I was kind of carving out some of these areas. Not exactly 100% the same, but similar feel. Straighter passages, kind of taper open in places. I was trying to break it up a little bit more in terms of not being completely square in a lot of these other areas. And then you can climb up here. Now, just like the hole, you can't like jump out there. You have to like find your way out. And I just noticed a texture thing that I gotta fix. But eventually, you know, you come over here to this collapsed column, and this will get us to the area that we're gonna work on today. And then to get back out of here, you either come back this way or drop back down. And then you gotta climb up into these caves, which is a whole kind of network. And again, I was just playing around with different things. I'm not at 100% in love with this room. I think I'm gonna change it or get rid of it. And then, you know, it's kind of another larger open space. But if you come over here, there is this kind of... Oh, I need to fix that. Apparently, when I was moving stuff around, I flattened that out, and I didn't mean to. But anyways, so you kind of get on top of this room, you fall down through the hole, and then you end up in another area, which I haven't finished cleaning up. And then you're back inside of these, you know, kind of ruins, or temple. This looks a little too much like a temple, so I might make some alterations. I like the stairs, but it's feeling too temple-y. And the ceiling feels a little low. I might knock that up an inch. Or maybe like a meter or so. You got up here, and then over here, and you got this kind of like unfinished tunnel. There's the pile of bricks. I need to kind of work on that. I was just playing around with it real quick. And you come back up. And in this room you guys had seen on Sean's. So this loops, you know, down now. This didn't before. This was much smaller and much tighter. And then this was here before. Just made it a little bit larger because I have more room to play around with everything. And then over here is kind of like a bath, I guess. But just kind of thinking about little, you know, little things that tuck around that could potentially be camps or, you know, more identifiable locations and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I'm going to run back over towards the area that I'm working on. And ideally, that, you know, this fall would be much further. I was not playing with it correctly, so if we were to keep this, I would probably take this and drop this much further down, which would make me have to adjust some other stuff too. But ideally, you wouldn't be able to jump there and not die. You'd have to take the safe path, kind of like the hole. So I'm going to actually just stand right here. And now let's pop back over and kind of play around with that stuff. So let's open up Shaded Dunes. And we are right where we were. So, like I said, this tunnel system, I'm going to extend it a bit. And then we will have it kind of smash right up against this. Alright, let's play around with this a bit. Give ourselves an edge loop. And try to snap this to the grid. Because this face should already be on the grid. I'm going to double check with that real quick. Yep, it is. And move that over here. And I'm worried about these lining up because I want to be able to remove faces, because when I have walls I don't want like mountain or cave sides to be in it. Okay, so those should all be able to line up now. I think how I want this. I obviously don't want this floating in the air. Or actually, maybe I could do it like that and have some sort of like weird like arched foundation or something like that under here. I don't know. What do I want to do? I just want this ramp. So again, kind of have a general idea of what I'm doing, but we haven't, again, nothing's kind of based right now off of the lore. So there's no specific, like, purpose or exactly what I'm doing. There's no, like, grand design that I've kind of, like, worked out and just kind of free form playing around with this. So, just kind of trial and error, which is actually how a lot of this stuff has been kind of working. Some areas I think I need to work in a little bit more too, but this is kind of getting what I'm looking for. So I could probably even get away with this being lower. Again, the kind of standard doorway is about 7.5 high. Or not 7.5, sorry, 2.5. Have you ever seen the British TV show, The Grand Designers? No. I haven't. But to be honest, I haven't watched a lot of actual, like, TV in years. When I first got my own place after college in like 2010, I ended up realizing how expensive and ridiculous cable was, and I really haven't had cable since. But I'm not up to date on a large amount of current TV shows. Hey Nick, how's it going? Going pretty good here. Oops, do I have? Yep, I do. It's kind of an older show where these people build their own homes. It's really interesting. You might like it being an environment guy. You really liked it anyways? That does sound interesting. I used to love watching some of those types of shows. And I used to watch a bunch of videos on YouTube and stuff of people that would build like tiny homes and stuff. I kind of always wanted to build my own, but I don't have the the land to throw a tiny home on, and I don't foresee me. I personally can live in one, but I don't see me being able to live in one with two boys that are, well, one's a teenager now. Send help, but the other one is soon to be a teenager. So I don't think the three of us would survive in a tiny home. Oh yeah, I totally love the idea of tiny homes. I actually, well, one, my name being Harrison or Harry, people call me both. I used to get a whole bunch of Harry Potter jokes in high school, specifically because at one point I got super annoyed of sharing a room with Squishy Mustard, who I don't think is in chat right now. I got really mad and basically walked into the storage closet we had at our apartment that we lived at with our parents, and just decided to throw all of the stuff that was in the storage closet out and make it my bedroom. So I lived in a storage closet voluntarily for 3 or 4 years, and it was awesome. Everything was like arm's reach. I loved it. Had no windows. That was back in the days when I could actually like sleep in, which made sleeping in so much easier. Yeah. Oh, brotherhood. But yeah, it was good times. I really enjoyed that small room. So every time I see tiny rooms or tiny houses, I'm always like, damn, someday I need to do that. Or like I'd go to the Home and Garden show we have here with my one friend, and I would always be like walking through all the little tiny homes and stuff like that, being like, oh, someday. Oh, you checked out the newer area? Yeah, I kind of got carried away with trying to, in my mind, think of a way. Oh, that's right, I closed it. Hold on a second. Think of a way to get to this under area underneath these buildings, which I'm going to kind of start playing with over here. But I was like, well, I can just punch a hole here. I can punch a hole over there. And then I just got super carried away with making caverns and, spaces. And obviously I could expand on it more. And I think I mentioned it before you were in here, but ideally I would drop this much lower so that it'd be kind of like the hole where if you jump down, you die. and you have to kind of like go down the side here, and then eventually this will be moved, because right now it's bumping into the necro area down here, which I haven't taken the time to kind of just nudge this wall a bit, but yeah. So where am I? Getting all turned around. So the idea now is this cave will go into the bottom floor of one of these buildings that doesn't have sand, that'll let you kind of get up into this passageway, and then potentially, you know, like some of these might have holes in the walls so you can climb into, and you know, so potentially, you know, we could use it as like an encounter space if we so choose. So I'm just kind of playing around with that idea tonight. We're getting these buildings together so we can have that space underneath all the planks, and then, you know, potentially could fuel ideas for encounters or something like that. If we end up keeping it. Oops. What is going on over here? Got a straight edge loop, it looks like. Question is, where does it belong? Okay, that's the straight one. All right. I'm just going to merge these down. I should have started this with just a cube, or one of the ones that was just a cube and didn't have an extrusion. But I didn't. Alright. So, I'm not going to get too fancy with this right now. I'm just going to kind of rough out the general shapes of everything. But again, I'm going to kind of use more of, you know, these shapes for now. Also, I'm going to try to keep things in quads, especially on this piece. Just so it makes it easier to make edge loops and stuff if I decide I want a window here or, you know, something over there. So I'm just gonna clean these up real quick, because if I don't, I'll be fighting with them later. Oops. Yep, those are not on an edge. Oh, excuse me. Alright, and not that this one's really gonna make that much of a fuss if I don't fix it, but may as well when I'm doing all the other ones. Looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna eventually treat this similarly to how I treated the hole over here. Although the hole over here, I might even stick some like brick pieces out of this or something like that. And I don't like this part, so I might clean this up a little bit more. Although it being kind of janky like that looks, or makes it kind of look a little bit more classic. But that bugs me. Let me fix that real quick. UVs. I apologize, I'm doing this off screen, but there, fixed that. But so similar like that, and then have, you know, some like rock piles and stuff underneath it. Alright, so we've got this, and where is a... I know one of these doesn't have any extrusions or anything on it. Good. And we'll bring this all the way to that kind of alleyway. I'm going to have some of them kind of sticking out a little bit further than others. And I'll worry about like tapering these edges and stuff when I get to the actual cleanup phase, but for now, that works. Hold on, I need to get this edge. There. Edge can be there. And we'll delete those faces. And I'm gonna need to cut this face. It's gonna be a little annoying because I have this giant broken wall in the way. Ah! So let's... Oh! Oh, that works. Just grabbing the wrong face. It's always awkward when you grab the wrong face. Okay, let's merge that. Make that a little less square. Oof, this edge flow's ugly. What happens when you're not paying attention to it while you're moving stuff around. Okay, let's clean this up. The only problem with it is cleaning it up is not the easiest process, because the tools in this really like to fight you, or at least they like to fight me. I haven't figured out if there is a way for me to like cut and then like go beyond this. I can make more cuts on the same face, but like I don't know how to go to the next face. So I need to figure that out, because there's got to be an easier way to use this cut tool. Come on, you can snap, and then it does this type of thing where it won't snap. Oh, that time it did. It just didn't look like it did. Oh god, the tiny repeating texture. I can make it even tinier. I could probably even make it tinier than that. Alright, let's not do that. It does not like it when I go that small. Alright, so we got that. Uncleaned up. We need to run another edge around in here. And I need to delete. I'm gonna have to delete faces too at some point, because that did not work. That is why I really don't like a lot of the newer zones in EverQuest. No, I agree. The texture density definitely increased in some of the expansions, but it was more like larger textures just weren't stretched across something. They were the same, it felt like they were the same scale. So everything got really dense and tight, and you could really see a lot of the repetition. Which, I mean, you can see a lot of the repetition anyways, but when you make it really dense like that, it becomes really, really noticeable. Depth of Dark Hollow was painful. That was the last expansion that I actively played. Before I took my couple-year hiatus. I did come back and play in the first one they did like 5 years ago of Kunark, kind of revamped. Forget what the heck it was called. But it's fun. I didn't like get super into it. I just kind of played with my RL friend and his friends. Ah, that was not what I wanted to do. And nor was that. There we go. Okay. So I've got the edge loops. Now I just gotta move some stuff. And figure out if I want to I want to run that off, or no. I'm going to kind of keep it a little boxy, at least for now. Looks a little more classic. Maybe I'll paper it just like that. But I'm going to triangulate this, I think. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you never got my pally to 105, Slacker. I got Atis to 105. And my Druid box to 102 or something like that. Yeah, we did play a little bit in POR. I just saw that message. But I didn't play a ton in POR. So I don't know. I consider Depths of Dark Hell kind of the end of my original EverQuest tenure. Okay, now I can clean up the super tiny repeating textures. And they should stay away this time. Oop, helps if I leave that open. Although I'm also watching chat on that window, so I probably should bring it over to this window. Oh my gosh, come on. You off when Gates of Discord came out? When Gates came out, I was just going to college, so I started I had more time to play because I wasn't competing with Squishy Mustard for computer time. Probably played more than I should have. But you got through POR and quit right when the next expansion came out on Mangler. I have made further than I ever have in EQ. No, we were playing on 2 different PCs. Yeah, we were playing on 2 different PCs, but we were also competing with Mom, Dad, and Kara too. So it was my computer. Granted, it was not a very good computer, but I didn't have to worry about sharing time or being grounded or any of those fun reasons that I wouldn't get to play. I should really fix that, but I'll fix it later. One thing I have noticed about playing around with Pro Builder is sometimes you start fixing stuff and you move like one thing and it just breaks textures like further down the chain. So, oh, excuse me. I'm not gonna worry about it too much at this point. My dad had to write a schedule between myself and my 2 brothers to play. And I would wake up at 6 a.m. To get in a little extra. Yeah, we used to get up super early to get playing time in. Yeah, our mom worked night shifts, so when she left, we'd hop on. Yeah, that too. But I don't remember if we had a schedule. I remember, like, us kind of like diplomatically figuring out some of the playing time stuff ourselves. I remember like it was more so, or maybe it wasn't EverQuest 2, but it was more so like playing Final Fantasy or something, where one of us would be like close to a boss or something like that, and the other person would just be like, you could have my hour, and then we'd switch off. But EverQuest was kind of when we finally stopped doing the hour-long gaming session rule, because we quickly realized we would never get anything done in the game if we were only playing for an hour at a time. Let's see. Okay, that one's that way. Probably don't want it to stick out that much. How wide did I make that? Okay. That is what I thought. Alright, so let's... Here. 5. Oh, helps if I grab the right wall. Alright. Probably going to be a little larger than I want it to be, but whatever. I'll always adjust it later. I'm going to set that pivot better because that is driving me crazy. One thing I do love about this over Unreal is the ability that when my pivot's like floating 5 miles away from the mesh, I can just easily reset it. Where it's really dumb in Unreal with BSP, how I need to like maneuver the mesh to the widget. But that said, if anybody is in chat and does know a way to simply do something like that in Unreal, feel free to let me know, because that's been something I've been wanting to know how to do for 15, 16 years of using Unreal now. Okay, so we've got that. I am going to move the sand layer, which is probably a lot larger than it's going to need to be anyways. I'm going to be deleting faces on it, I'm sure. And I'm going to just kind of use rough planes right now. And of course I grab the one that I didn't just fix the pivot on. And we'll use this to make a floor for this building. And again, I'm going to want to be in this building for the most part. Be able to like walk around in it. But I think I'm eventually going to kind of in a little like portion right here and play around with this shape. But for now, I'm just gonna keep it very boxy, just because it's easier to edit stuff. But I kind of want to play with the idea of the piles of sand. You know, maybe billowing in through windows, and you can use them as ramps to like walk up to other floors and go through holes and stuff like that. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to play around with in an environment like this. I've actually never played with the idea of a older abandoned ruin that you know, is being swallowed up by dunes. So I think this can be kind of a fun thing to play with. So let's save this and test this so I can make sure the scale feels right before I just start building, like I did with the cavern, that I wanted it to be much deeper, and finally built the exit to climb out of it and realized I didn't make it as deep as I thought I did. Which I was on Shaman. This feels about right. I may play around with some of these shapes. Ooh. I'm not necessarily liking the jaggedness of it, and I did not fix the seam on the floor, but I'll fix the seams later, like I said. I feel like maybe widening this just a pinch would also not be a bad idea. Potentially, I could have like the foundations of another building or something here. So come in here. This actually doesn't feel too bad. I don't have a whole lot of room to play with being able to climb up. You can see the lip of kind of where the edge of the street is, so technically the pathway is right above me. So maybe I should move this wall a little bit further. Although that was probably a terrible, terrible place to camp out. Let me move back before I move that floor or something. Come back in and fall endlessly into the world. Slightly safer. I don't intend on editing that spot. I can't say how many times throughout the years, not necessarily working on M&M, but on other projects and stuff, and personal projects, or like being in the middle of a demo while I'm teaching, and you click the button to start playing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, whoops, as you fall through the ground. Do I want? Yeah, I don't think I want that to go as far. Let's adjust these walls. Actually, let's do this. Cool. It's back. Oops, that was not what I wanted. You know what? I'm gonna bring up in my mind some of these shapes could play off of stuff like an Emerald Jungle right in front of City of Mist. Or not City of Mist, sorry, Sebulus. Let's take a gander. Alright, Emerald Jungle's not where I wanted to go. Why am I blanking? Why am I blanking on... Oh my god, what's the zone off of Emerald Jungle? Why am I blanking? The one that is between it and Sebulus. Howling Stone? No, not Howling Stones. Oh my god. Trachodon, thank you. There we go. That took a second to load. All right. Where are you? I wish the movement in this was not so sensitive. It's so hard to see everything with all the trees. I don't know if I want the stuff as broken up as this. For some reason in my mind, they were more of them were together. Oh my god, the trees. It's not quite... It's similar to the feeling that I want, but it's not quite what I had. Like I was envisioning in my head. It's funny how like memory, you can have like a memory in your head, and it just it isn't quite exactly what you saw. My God, I can't get a good angle on it with all these trees. I'm sure watching this on stream is like nausea-inducing, so I'm gonna stop playing around with that because I'm not gonna get what I'm looking for anyways. Okay. So let's figure out how high the floor should be for this. So that's kind of what I've been doing. About 4. Bring it down just a pinch. Yeah, right about there. There's a little bit of room here. And then what I'll do eventually, I probably won't do it on the stream, but I'll just move this over here and update the file that we're using. And I forgot to check that side before I move that. So I get to do this 3 times now. There we go. Okay. So I have 2 floors. And let's fix this. And it means I'm going to fix this one too. This is what happens when you don't check your mesh before you duplicate it. There we go. Okay, so let's save this again. And I'm going to run around in this space for a second. I kind of figure out a plan of what I would like to do from getting to that bottom floor up onto that, because the second floor is the floor that I'm going to have all of the kind of playable area. This feels pretty good. I think this might be walled off into one larger room. Come through here, and then maybe some sort of collapse across here. And then sand pouring through the window down into here. That could be kind of cool. Okay. I'm just trying to think of, like, I want this to open up, so this part, I'm just trying to think how to break this. So this part, we'll just play around with it. Okay, so I'm just gonna move these edges out of the way. I'll clean it again. I'm gonna clean this stuff up later. But when I'm playing around with this, it'll be easier to have it out of the way. Oop, I forgot. Pro Builder really doesn't like to make it concave unless you give it the edge. So we will do a little bit of cleaning up. Move these around just a bit. Not quite as grand of a framing as I'd like. You know what? I'm going to save myself some trouble. Oh no, because I'm going to lose. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these and merge them over here with their one over here. I'm going to regret that. Probably, but whatever. And then we'll do the same with these ones. Because if I'm playing around with these, and I'm gonna have to be constantly moving them around anyways, or they're going to overlap. And I have learned the Pro Builder is not a huge fan of edges overlapping. Not that any 3D program is, but Pro Builder definitely has some fun visual glitches for your entire level if you have that happen. Okay, so let's play around with these a little bit more. Let's grab that edge that I have hidden. Okay. And move those over, move that away. And oh, see, this is exactly what I don't want to do with that. Is this one doing it? No, that one's fine. So I'm moving those edges around. So let's do it this way. I'm gonna kind of open this up a little bit more. And let's do this again. Okay, that's good. And where's the there it is. Alright, awesome. Sometimes I've noticed if you don't check it, when you do the cut tool, even though it looks like it snaps, it doesn't. And then you go to move something, you're like, whoa, there's an extra face there. Still not super happy with it. Hold it. Not gonna let me. Oops. So trying to get a little bit more detail in this breakup portion right here. Oop, that was not what I wanted. I do one right there. Yes, awesome. Except that's I'm going to be doing more cleanup work than I wanted to because of all these edge loops. That's pretty good. That's starting to look a little bit more like I want. Although maybe less like a W shape there. Pull that off there. Helps if I could actually click on what I was trying to click on. There we go. Alrighty. Something kind of like that. Not too bad. So I'll probably put a wall down in here in a bit. I don't know if I want one up top, but we'll see. All right, I do want a window. So again, I'm thinking, you know, that's kind of like standing height. You know, maybe that's the top of a doorway. I think actually Goblin said that was supposed to be top of a doorway. I'm not going to do too many windows, but I'm going to put like a window about that height. Maybe broken? Or maybe, do I want it broke? Or just maybe just a broken chunk out of the wall. And that's where it stands coming in. Maybe it's not going to be a full window. Let's play with this. And I'm going to do, get my camera to see the spots, I have to select them. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to visually see where I want this to be. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna give myself the edge loop. Straight back up. And then we will play with these bit. And I know I have to have like 2.5 essentially for it to be easily traversable by like a human scale race or smaller. And again, this stuff will get cleaned up a little bit better. Later, if we decide to keep it. Or when I'm going through and throwing textures on, depending on what I'm doing. Oops. Apparently I did an entire edge loop selection there and was not paying attention. Okay. We got that. And I don't know. Let's play around with some of this sand. Where's my sand layer? Floating in space. Ah. Okay. I'm going to also delete this face for now. If I decide I need this later, I can always just extrude out a new one. And then a lot of these probably going to get deleted too, but here's going to be the fun part, is getting this to look right without getting too tessellated. So I'm going to push these edges beside it, up against it, so that it feels like this is kind of just a nice little taper in. And then let's and work with the shape of it. So I think it's going to filled up in kind of tapered to that corner. So that should be free now. Oops. We're going to delete this face too. Let's see if we can find sand dune. See if we can find any good sand dune photos. I should probably do this so you guys can see too. A lot of these are sand dune inside a house. Here we go. This is the type of stuff I'm looking for. Just kind of, you know, swoopy, kind of filling in stuff like this. So I'm gonna have these kind of over on my other screen. You guys won't be able to see them, unfortunately, but those are kind of what I'm gonna look at to kind of keep ideas of the shape in my head. Now, which one do I really like? Let's use this one for now. Definitely gonna have to give myself some more edge loops, and I'm definitely gonna want to triangulate this at some point too, but for now, to be able to give myself more edges, I will not be triangulating this. Let's cut across that. That should be fine. All right. Oh, an edge loop there. I didn't, or vertices over there. I didn't realize. Maybe I'm gonna have this. Yeah, I like that. Take a little bit more playing with, but I like that kind of feel of it pouring through. Pull all these vertices over here up just a pinch. I think I'm going to give myself a second one right here just to control. So it's almost like there's been sand that's kind of built up against this. But at the same time, trying to do this without over modeling. In my head, I'm like, don't over model. Don't over model. But I have to admit, working with Pro Builder has definitely helped me not get into that wanting to over model everything mindset. It's because the tools are, it's not as easy for me to kind of just start you know, getting into really high poly counts or stuff like that. Looking pretty sweet, actually. I'm liking that. Like, my mind really wants to like give one more edge loop there, but I'm gonna try to keep it blocky. I can always add later. I think I over model a bunch, but it's not too hard to reduce while working in Blender. Yeah, mine is the same way. This is a lot harder to reduce. One of the things I really wish they would add is the ability to delete edges. Like, you can't delete edge loops. You have to just merge stuff. So if I wanted to get rid of this edge loop, I would just have to like merge each individual vertice, which is just really obnoxious. So it prevents me from just getting like, oh, I can just start doing this and not have a care in the world, because I usually will end up having some sort of care in the world about how it is looking. It's starting to look pretty cool. And I do think I'm going to do another couple ones over here so I can kind of, again, build those dunes up. Yeah, that sounds rough. Can you imagine? Or can you imagine an entire edge loop? Or can you merge an entire edge loop? Or all right. Let's give that a test. I don't know. I think I tried that at one point, and I think when you yeah, they don't. You like you could connect edges like that, but there was no collapse. Because I think that was one of the first things I tried to do. So yeah, it's super limiting, but I think at the same time it's a benefit when trying to hit the style we're trying to hit. Man, I'm excited. Or Nick says, "Man, I'm excited to see this come to life. It's gonna be sick." Yeah, I'm really excited about this whole area. You know, this when Goblin did that one and really kind of explained to me all of this type of stuff, I was like, oh man, that's a really cool idea. A really cool just encounter area. Maybe potentially even having some, you know, I'm gonna probably play around with some of these shapes when we get out into like the exterior area. But yeah, I think it'd be a cool little area to, you know, potentially have encounters and stuff. I just need to figure out how to handle like these types of area, like alleyways in between things. That's gonna make sense. I don't know, maybe like there's arches or something. I don't know if there's gonna be some sort of like, there's got to be something that makes sense that sand is sitting on top of it, or it could just be, you know, sand has billowed in, you know, from this point. I could do something like, actually that might not be a bad idea to do for most of them, but we'll see. You think one of the ways environments in AQ weren't over models because some of the artists kept the vertices snapped to the grid? You notice Quanos specifically that its artists broke the buildings. Excuse me. I completely coughed and just lost where I went. You notice in Quanos specifically the artists broke the buildings into modular cubes. And all the verts in the zone fell on a grid that was 1/10 of the cube. Yeah, I'm sticking to a cube or to a grid myself. Right now, I'm just snapping every 25th of a meter or a quarter of a meter. So I've been doing that for the most part. There has been a couple times where I'll get to a tighter grid, but doing the grid and really playing around with tools that are limiting in terms of, like, again, you know, if I was doing this in Maya, I would grab this edge and, you know, throw a bevel on it to get it to look nice. Where if I bevel in this program, all I can do is really play around with the distance, and it just splits it in two. I can't even, like, I can't really keep increasing the distance and adding more subdivisions to smooth things out. So... And then on top of that, I could just hit a smooth and just literally smooth the entire mesh. But I think sticking to a grid, plus kind of using tools that are more limiting, I think is really, at least for me, is being beneficial so far. We'll see if I continue to feel that way or not, but... And thanks, Necken Tros for the for your first comment. Although I think we've talked a little in Discord. Where do I want this edge? I want it off of... I have to move this point so I can see where I'm making my cut. Awesome. You said you think you're right on track. Yeah, I think this is working out pretty well so far. There's definitely some parts that are going to be beneficial for us when we do like art passes to really kind of clean things up. That are going to benefit from like me exporting this out into Maya and cutting or doing UVs and stuff there. The UVing in this is nice and quick, but it also leaves some things to be desired at times. So certain areas will get cleaned up pretty quickly from where Pro Builder's getting me. Right. Oops, sorry, I'm covering up. Well, not for you guys, but I'm covering up the dune pictures I'm looking at as reference on how the sand looks as it piles in corners. I want it just to be that, or do I want to add a little bit more to it? See, that's the question. It's like, how much detail is the right amount? Okay, I think that is what I'll keep it at. And then I think I'm just going to run an edge loop down this. Oops. It is not completely on the grid. And then we'll just bridge these. So that way I have this side and this side I can play with separately. And then I'm just going to delete the faces that are in the middle. Yeah, I'm just going to... Sometimes this cut, like I said, this cut tool can be wonky itself. Oh yeah, definitely. I just saw your message about texturing and grids. It definitely makes it a lot easier when it comes to like tiling and stuff like that. 100% agree with that. You almost want another face in here. Is that face I can get rid of? Because that'd be sweet. Yes, I can. So I'm just going to take this to this corner just to get this slightly more detail. Lift that a little bit more, I think, too. Oops. I know this is all eventually going to be on the wall. This part, what I'm probably going to end up doing is breaking something up here at some point. I'm not sure where yet. That'll probably come as I play more with the structure. But I'm thinking there might be like most of this part might be full of sand or have a couple like dunes built up in it. But this is kind of getting the feel that I want already. But let's take a look at this again, and I'll do a run around for everybody of all this new stuff that I've kind of put in. So let me just grab a fresh character so I can run it. I'm gonna have all these characters down in this area at some point. All right, let's do the monk. I think the monk has the boots already. Yes. All right. So let me run over there. And anybody who's not aware of what the game is that we're doing, that wasn't here initially, this is Monsters and Memories, which is a indie MMO that is heavily influenced by classic, excuse me, like late 90s, early 2000s MMOs, EverQuest, Ultima, things like that. Very, very influenced by EverQuest. And we actually have a lot of our systems kind of already in the game. We're in the process of doing a redesign of the rough out of the city we had. And I just kind of got rid of all this area, and I probably closed the concept art. But this was an initial sketch that our concept artist Goblin did when he came on. We're in the process of redoing the lure and really locking in on what this is. So I'm just kind of been playing around with some of the shapes and some of the ideas that are in here, and seeing how they'll translate to our idea of having, this big living city that has encounter areas and stuff hidden throughout it. So you'll see some of that in a minute, but this is kind of the newer city. There's some older ruins. This is kind of what I'm playing around with down here in these duned areas that are kind of, underneath these planks that the modern city's kind of built on top of. So there's, these essentially old streets underneath that have been kind of covered over by things. And then I'll be building buildings on top, in this area as well. And then this area right here is based off of what's actually supposed to be up higher, I think up in these areas. Where did that image go? There it is. So this area right here is this building and this doorway and this. Just kind of played around with and thrown, tried some just different things to see how they worked. And then, kind of played around with just other things over here. There's a little, there's a little, kind of tavern set up that needs to, it's very rough at this point, but there's, like bunk beds and stuff for an inn. If you go upstairs, there's more rooms that are a little bit larger and single rooms, and then, kind of got the innkeeper's space. Oop, I moved that and need to fix that. I need to remember to do that before I forget. A little like balcony area out here, which is actually on top of a gnome structure. So, tiny little doors. Our humans are a little too fat to get into them. And then played around with ogre scale, but I haven't actually converted it over into this type of stuff yet. But oh, sorry, there's missing some chat while I'm doing my tour. You're having an issue with ProBuilder snapping properly when it was trying, when I was trying to use it. I was snapping to the grid on 2 axes, and it seemed as if it was snapping to an entirely different grid on 3rd axis. I had a lot of issues with it too when my background is more Unreal based. When I got on the project, well, I started doing some stuff in September, but I officially was on the team and started messing around in Unity in October. That's probably the first time in 5 years that I'd actually done much in Unity. I'm more of an Unreal guy, and Pro Builder was giving me, especially with like some of these like modular pieces, which snap together fine in Unreal if I bring them in there or in Maya. But the grid system was driving me crazy when I was trying to snap some of those things together. I've kind of over the last couple weeks when I've really kind of started building out this stuff and really starting to lean more into, I think Pro Builder is actually going to be a really handy tool for us to kind of hit that aesthetic we're going for. The snapping has been less of an issue for me. I don't know if I just got used to it or I figured out what was going on, but yeah, it is a little wonky for sure. You could make a pile of skeletons in there and call it the remains of Patty, since you're sending your tunes there to their doom. Actually, when we do have a skeleton model, I will be using them fairly often. I'm sure I like, you know, throwing skulls and stuff around. But anyways, so I'll probably be like posing them and all sorts of different things. Or I don't know if we do like a ragdoll system that I can just drop them in or whatever. We can figure that out. Your changes are a huge improvement. Well, thank you very much. So we come in here. It's kind of a little storage room. And then I was trying to play around with like a secret entrance, so just kind of playing with using the crate as a door, and it kind of pops you down into here. And if you guys watch Sean's stream, I think Thursday, he was running around in the game. He kind of walked around in this area. It's changed vastly since the area was originally put in here. So there's still kind of this small little area in the beginning. Just kind of, you know, playing around. Like, I was just kind of messing around with like more disjarred ground. And I know Sean likes the idea of uneven, asymmetrical stuff. So I was just kind of playing around with that. I'm not 100% happy with it. I kind of want to clean it up a little bit. And I'm fighting a sneeze. I apologize. It's not going to come out, of course. So I'm going to be sitting here squinty-eyed and tears running down my face this entire time. So originally I had this all like within a shell. I was just trying to cram everything in a small space to see how much I could get away with, which I surprisingly worked pretty well. But I've since cut a hole in the terrain beneath it so I can actually like go down more. So this has expanded quite a bit. I'll show you guys when I pop back in what it was doing. So, you know, down here, kind of like a storage thing. You know, I kind of pushed this in, gave myself some more storage. And then this was a wall, but I kind of made it look like it's been, you know, kind of broken into. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Right now, textures aren't great, and the tiling on this one is messed up too now. So this will get cleaned up, and there'll probably be some more pieces and stuff sticking out. But it's kind of to transition into this, you know, like older, like a cult temple or something like that. And, you know, kind of walk in here. People were mentioning, like, oh, it looks like an occult area before, so I just kind of ran with that. So you got kind of the sacrificial altar, and then over here, it can expand out into a, I don't know, like a crypt or something. I just kind of have this large room, but this could end up being whatever. So the idea initially, and I have to play with the scale, because I did not have the ability to climb out of this, so I wanted to build that out first. So I initially wanted this to be something like, if I fall, time 7 a.m. If you would fall, you would die. So like the hole from EverQuest. So I needed to fix a couple things. There's a piece of geo that isn't letting me make this as a sheared cliff face. So this will eventually just be pushed in once I edit that little spot. This needs to get deeper, so much further down, because right now I could just jump down there and not die. But I ideally kind of walk down like the hole into here, and then you have all sorts of just kind of encounter space down here. And this can get put, I could expand some of these areas as well. There's a little kind of cave down here, and I was playing around with just different styles for how you'd want to do caverns. Again, UVs and stuff need to get fixed in some of these areas. But just kind of playing with more of a slightly rounded cave in this area. And then over here is more close to the classic, very just boxy, kind of pushed out areas. And then slightly tapering the width in areas. So this is kind of a little bit more of a classic area. And again, these could all be expanded out further if, we decided we wanted to keep this stuff. I just kind of was playing around with it. But can be, much, much more elaborate than it currently is. But I thought it started... Oh my god, now I'm choking on dust or something. I'm a mess. But anyways, I thought I started kind of getting that classic feel to a degree. But we also have, the ability to kind of climb up here. And then walk across this way. And there's this broken pillar over here that will get us over to that area that we were just building. So here's the base of one of those house's foundations, and you can kind of come in here. And again, you're gonna see through that plane because it's not fixed yet. But this would bring us into that under area, and I need to bring these down a little bit. This is a little too high up, which is part of the reason why testing this stuff out is good. So I need to make a little bit of an edit and bring this down. Maybe bring this portion down a bit too. So I'll be tweaking that. But to get out of here, I could walk back this way, or I could fall down here. That almost killed me. But you can't get back out, kind of like the hole. Once you drop, you're stuck. With levitate, we could probably make this gap, but again, I want to adjust the height if we decide to keep this down. So this would be, fatal to fall off of here and not be able to like levitate across. You can't jump across, but with levitate you could probably make it. So to get out of here, you'd have to go over to this one, and this was a much more rounded off cavern. Again, just kind of playing around with the different, how much detail do we want for caves and caverns and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of little caves and stuff over here. And to get out, you actually have to come over here. And there's a hole in the cave, which is actually on top of a ceiling that is caved in over here. And again, there's some UV issues and stuff that I have to clean up. But, so, kind of broken down spot that kind of comes up into this area, which is probably looking a little too much like a temple for me right now. I might change that. You can come up here. There's this room over here to kind of like an unfinished tunnel, where the brickwork was still being laid, and there's some extra bricks laid over here. And then you walk back up, and then this room was actually one of the rooms that you saw on Sean's stream. See, back here is where we started. And then this area has just been expanded just a little bit, make it a little bit larger. This area's got a little storage space over here for mobs to sit, and then this area kind of looks like a bath. So maybe put water or something down there at some point. But just kind of thinking about like things that could potentially, be like recognizable locations that could be camps. Just kind of playing around with like how staging some of this stuff could work. So, yep, that's kind of what it is. And again, like you can only get you can't go back up through that hole in the ceiling. There's no way to get back up to the caves that way. You have to come over here to get, you know, to get down to the caves. You have to go down this way, or technically, the idea would be go down that way when it would be fixed. And the only way to get up is to go through the caves back up, or port out. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on this weekend. And I can show you guys the space real quick. Which was originally, if you go back and watch Sean's stream from Thursday, I think it was, everything was contained within this part. So you can see now there's a hole. So all of this used to be like just shoved in here. Like there are parts where it was like just almost going through the floor and it was causing light to bleed through, and there was all sorts of little technical issues with how dense everything was, but I was just trying to see how much of a dungeon feel I could get tucked into a really tiny spot, because we want to have those encounters and stuff that are inside the city. So it was a good test initially, but then I kind of wanted a reason in my mind to be able to get under here, but make it kind of more of an exploration to get there. So that's how all these caverns and stuff have kind of developed over the last weekend. And again, you know, there's a lot of extra space here, so if we did like this kind of idea, you know, these could be, you know, more tunnels off, there could be shafts, there could be all sorts of different things. You know, there could be, you know, like a shaft that falls down into the deep dunes, underground, the deep zone that Sean created and was showing off to. We could do all sorts of different things with it, so it's just kind of a fun thing that I've been playing around with. And now we're working on this. Let me see if I missed anything. Love that. They need to make you their primary environment artist. You seem to have the torch. Yeah, right now I've been doing a lot of it. Sean's been doing a lot of other stuff as well with the environment art. So right now the two of us have been doing primarily. You know, Sean's been doing a lot of the rough out, and I've been kind of going through and cleaning up, and kind of pushing what the style is going to look like, you know, based off of Goblin's concepts currently. Nick said he loved that. Zukin, is that pushed more or less already? I want to go check it out. Oh, you can everything up until about here, maybe up to like here, it is pushed. So you can run around and play around with all that. This stuff over here that I've been working on tonight has not been pushed. I'll push it right after I get done playing around with this stream. So it won't be 100%, you know, finished, but you can run around and play with it and look at it. Looks like a cool area that could connect to sewers and evil races to sneak in. Yep, yeah. You know, that was another, you know, we have the sewers down here, which will eventually be reworked as well. Again, it's just kind of placeholder stuff thrown down here. You know, that is another thing. And you can actually see, I mentioned that there was some geometry. So there's this wall of the inside of this kind of crypt area that the necromancers lived in, that is currently blocking this. So, you know, once I start editing some of this stuff and move some walls and stuff, that can be more of a sheer cliff like I would like. And then this whole area will probably, if I can get a good camera angle. I've got way too many tunnels at this point. Where is it? So this area right here is should probably, you know, be dropped down, you know, like down to here or something to make this more fatal. So that might change some of the other designs. You know, some of these caverns might have to get moved or elongated to come back up to this point. But eventually, you know, if this was something we decided we wanted to keep, that is something I could you know, take a day or so to kind of maneuver all these points that have already been selected down so that it makes sense. Probably elongate this path a bit. And push it down so that, again, you know, just like the hole, you have a drop off that you can't get back up through. That was kind of my idea when I was playing around with this. And then the only way out is through your little collapsed ceiling area into whatever this room would eventually, you know, be. And again, you know, this could all expand out and play, you know, kind of wanting to play around with like some areas that are, you know, more stone and bricked out, you know, intermingled with some of the areas that are more cave-like. So this idea was like, you know, that this whole thing could be built in like a cave system or like tunneled out of a cave system. This area is just not finished. So that's why there's bricks here, but some of these areas are still, you know, kind of just bare rock because they haven't been, you know, addressed yet. So just kind of playing around with how that aesthetic can work. And I don't think that this is necessarily 100% like exactly how I'd want to do it and play around with it. And as we get more materials and stuff built, you know, things will change. But the general shape and idea of how those things can kind of play together is kind of what I was practicing or playing around with. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on. And actually, it's getting kind of late. And I have to get up early in the morning to get my boys on the bus and then work. For anybody who doesn't know, I teach video game design and 3D modeling and stuff like that. And digital art, kind of everything. But my classes started back up on Monday, which is today. So I had to start trying to get back onto a normal sleeping schedule. Oh my god, I can't stop fighting hiccups. But my body does not really like that transition. You online or in person? Were you talking about when I was in game? I was on Oh, you're talking about for my classes. So this week, the one school that I'm full-time at decided to do the first week remote, which was fun because I got like a couple day notice to make a bunch of Discord servers again, because that's what I teach through when we're online, since most of our students are familiar with Discord. So that's kind of what the department I'm in, which is game design, and the animation department primarily been teaching through Discord when we do it online. So we're doing this week remote, and then next week we're supposed to be transitioning back into the classroom. Yeah, the administration was figuring that with all the students coming back from the holidays, it was probably better just to do a week of everybody's at the dorms, but not everybody is running around the school. So it also, first week isn't that difficult. So that, and then the other place I teach, the classes that I teach are online. So those are always online. But yeah. Oh yeah, okay. I got what you meant. It just took me a second. The previous iteration on the zone was entirely too symmetrical. When you look at EQ zones, they're excuse me, they're almost entirely asymmetrical structures, caverns, tunnels, all of it. When things are too symmetrical, it can be hell to navigate by memory. Symmetrical spaces are much easier or asymmetrical spaces are much easier. Oh yeah, definitely. Also, we haven't really concepted out a lot of like the initial points of interest. So like, you know, there's a couple of points of interest that are kind of tucked around in here, you know, so we've got like this kind of harbor building, and there are some spaces that were tucked around, but they're all kind of like interior. So as we, you know, get further, as we lock in on our lore and really are like, okay, this is what Night Harbor structures are going to be, and we've got some, you know, things that we've decided these are the influences, but how exactly are all these influences going to play off each other? Once we have that all locked in, and you know, we can start to build stuff out. We can have Goblin concept out, you know, very specific points of interest that will also help, you know, keep that in your memory as you're moving around, and make things memorable, make certain places stick out, and help you navigate more. Also, you know, kind of figuring out what the flow of the city is going to be and stuff like that is all stuff we're playing around with. Right now, we're just kind of using this area to kind of work on what that is going to feel like and play around with some of these different elements and ideas that we have, to see how that's going to work as we, you know, lock in on everything. But yeah, so anybody who's not aware, again, this is Monsters and Memories. I'm gonna put my commands in here. So the first one should be the website, and that went through. So if you want to find out more about the game and the team, you know, visit the website. Discord is a great place if you're not already on our Discord, to hop in and, you know, have discussions with us. You know, we talk game design, we talk about our game, we talk about other games all the time. A lot of fun conversations that go on in there. So feel free to hop in and chat with us. Yes, like Squishy Mustard said, join the mailing list. You know, that you'll get information when we put out updates. Also, the mailing list may be part of getting access to the game once we start doing some more testing events with like the community and stuff, hopefully later this year. So that might be part of it. Also, these are other members of the team that are currently streaming. Nick, you're going to be streaming as well soon, right? I should probably add you to the list. And Ali is I think going to be doing streaming as well. So I'll add them to that list. So but in the future, but Sean's a Loving Robot channel. Zukin, who is in chat, who's doing a lot of the critter and character work. And then Goblin, who does our who's been doing our concepts. So, you know, feel free to check out those channels. If you enjoyed, you know, this stream, I always appreciate anybody who follows. I stream Monday nights at 8 and Wednesdays, or 8 p.m., and that is Eastern Standard Time, and 1 p.m., kind of like an after lunch on Wednesday, I do a stream as well. I may, depending on how Mondays go with work starting back up, I may transition the Monday night into like a Sunday night or something like that, to fit the schedule and not like conflict with everybody else, with other streams that are happening. Thanks Nick for putting Ali's Twitch in there. Again, I'll add those to that so that the bot will send links as well. But yeah, everybody, you know, streams slightly different different content, different aspects of the game. So, you know, check it out. You know, feel free to hop in and ask questions and stuff. But other than that, I'm gonna call it a night. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. I will probably play around with this section a little bit more before Wednesday's stream. So it might be more, you know, playing around with dunes and trying to get that to feel right. Or it might be, you know, kind of playing around with some of these structures to kind of maybe get some little, like, you know, play space in here, encounter space. Or if I'm already kind of done with that, it might be, you know, building up some of these other buildings that are going to be kind of, you know, sitting on top of the ruins that are kind of underneath. So it might be, so could be any of those. My guess is it would probably be a little bit of work going on down here, because there is a lot to do. Even though it's this tiny little alley, there's gonna be a lot of dunes and stuff to play around with, and stuff like that. And some of these areas, you know, might have, I might play with areas kind of descending down into them as well. So it'll be fun. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a night, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you on Wednesday.